I absolutely love wrestling. I watch AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Stardom, Noah, CMML, AAA, MLW, GCW, and now recently a super cool Indian promotion, WXM. I need to make it super clear at the start of this video that if I wasn't making educational and political content, I would absolutely, with zero hesitation, be a wrestling journalist, and I think every single day about starting a second channel where I do just that. But there is a point at which it's just entertainment stops being a neutral position and starts becoming a willful lie. Now, you might have noticed I don't list WWE in that list of wrestling promotions that I watch. And that's because for me, WWE crossed that point years ago. And at this stage, pretending otherwise isn't not it's flat out denial. Recently, someone I genuinely loved and respected and loved. If you've watched my content for a while, you know I've made videos about them at every AEW show I've gone to. Recently, that person made a choice, and that choice was to go and work for WWE. It's a choice that happens every single day across the wrestling landscape. But this time, that choice didn't just feel disappointing. It felt gross. It felt unethical. And I had to really sit in this for a while. And I think that reaction wasn't abstract. It was sharpened by something I saw recently, which was the release of Epstein-related Department of Justice documents in which Ashley Mazzaro's name appears. Now, to be clear, and to be more responsible than other people who've already made videos about this topic, Mazzaro's name appears in an anonymous Epstein-era complaint, one of the millions of pages recently released by the Department of Justice. The document itself is heavily redacted and unverified, but the context is very clear. Ashley Mazzaro is mentioned alongside other young women described as being exposed to harm in elite networks. She's placed in proximity to abuse, not as a subject of wrongdoing, but as someone whose life intersected with systems designed to exploit and protect the powerful. Now, this is not speculation. It is the same pattern we see again and again. Women made vulnerable inside one abusive institution show up in another, and that's because the mechanisms that enable elite men to act with impunity are consistent across industries, decades, and continents. Her appearance in these files underscores the broader truth at the heart of this story. The same systems that failed her in WWE did not suddenly disappear elsewhere, and the consequences for women are very real. It forces a reckoning with how the same kinds of elite abuse ecosystems keep surfacing across industries and how women caught inside of them are treated as expendable. Now, WWE under Vince McMahon did not merely have problems. It functioned the way elite abuse ecosystems function, not because the same crimes were proven to occur in the same way as other infamous networks, but because the conditions were identical: extreme power imbalance, young women economically dependent on a single gatekeeper for money, status, and safety, non-disclosure agreements used as tools of control, and an institutional culture that treated sexual access as a perk of power rather than a violation of consent. We see this in all of the legal paperwork and all of the allegations that were weighed against WWE, Vince McMahon, and others within the company over the last 2 decades. But when women spoke up, the institution of WWE closed ranks. When they suffer, the machine keeps moving, and that matters because abuse doesn't require a secret cabal of billionaires to flourish. It requires insulation. It requires proximity to power. It requires a quiet, shared understanding that consequences can be optional for the right people and the right level of pay. Ashley Mazzaro's life and death sit squarely inside that reality. She was a contracted WWE performer who submitted a sworn affidavit alleging that she was drugged and sexually assaulted during a WWE tour and that company leadership discouraged her from reporting it. Her claims were denied. The lawsuit stalled. The system protected itself as it always does. And in 2019, she lost her life. WWE and its community did not meaningfully stop, pause, or even reckon with what that meant. For years, her story has been treated as tragic, but overall inconvenient. Something sad that happened near the institution of WWE rather than something that revealed how it operates. Now, with her name surfacing in Epstein-era documents, people are once again tempted to do the wrong thing: sensationalize her, and then dismiss the pattern entirely because it doesn't allow you to continue your enjoyment of these human beings as a consumable product. Ashley Mazzaro doesn't need to be a link to Epstein to matter. She matters. Her story is connective because it shows how elite institutions repeatedly fail women in the same ways across industries and decades of time. Epstein's network represents a more extreme, more criminally documented manifestation of those same dynamics. WWE represents the normalized, culturally sanctioned version. Different scale, same mechanics: NDAs, silence, gatekeepers, disbelief. The slow grinding down of women who are inconvenient to power. Politics enters this picture not through conspiracy, but through proximity and protection. WWE is adjacent to Trump world through Linda McMahon, who ran WWE during years when abuse allegations against both women and small children, mind you, were surfacing internally and later became a major Trump donor and administrator of the Small Business Administration, and as you now know, is deep in the Department of Education. Donald Trump, separately and indisputably, had a long social relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, publicly praised him, and appears in flight logs and party photos, with all necessary legal caveats about what those do and do not prove. But ties these worlds together is not a secret plot, but a shared elite milieu where accountability was rare, silence rewarded, and obviously consequences negotiable to one's power at the time. None of this was or is subtle. Trump wasn't a random one-time celebrity cameo in WWE. He was folded into storylines. They've hosted events at his properties. He's been publicly celebrated long by the company before he entered the White House. WWE talent and branding have appeared at the White House. The McMahon family moved seamlessly between corporate and entertainment power to positions of state power. They clap like seals in the Oval Office, and we're expected to pretend this doesn't matter, only because pretending is easier than reckoning. Which brings us to now. Now, in 2026, choosing to work for WWE is not an innocent career move made in a vacuum. It's a choice to lend your credibility, your labor, and bring your fan goodwill to an institution with a documented history of silencing women, protecting abusers, aligning itself with authoritarian politics, and pretty blatantly having serious issues with racism. When you have other options, when you're not desperate, you're not new to the game, you're already successful, you already have a place, claiming neutrality is not innocence, it's avoidance. These power dynamics persist because too many people decide that the harm just doesn't affect them personally enough to matter, or it might get in the way of them making money or gaining some fame for themselves, because looking too closely could cost you access or comfort. It's easier to say it's just wrestling than to admit that culture and politics and power are entangled there and always have been. And that's the part I find genuinely disgusting. Not ignorance, not even disagreement, but the choice to continue to look away while then insisting you have some sort of moral cleanliness. Ashley Mazzaro does not need to be dragged into conspiratorial speculation to make this point. In fact, doing so would repeat the same harm that defined her treatment in life, turning a woman's suffering into something disposable or inconvenient. Her story already tells us what we need to know. Systems like WWE do not fail accidentally, they fail by design, and they persist because enough people decide that speaking plainly is more uncomfortable than staying quiet. Neutrality has always protected power. Silence will always keep the machine running. History's not confused about who pays the price. And when you choose to align yourself with the systems that destroy, don't be surprised when you too get chewed up and spit out. I wish you the best in your new journey at WWE, but I won't be supporting it, Habs.